Hello everyone, I'm Leysan Nurgalieva. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at Trinity College Dublin in Ireland, and I would like to present and discuss our work in progress, a narrative review of the factors affecting the implementation of privacy and security practices in software development teams. This study is a collaboration of Health Technology and Design Research Group at Trinity College Dublin and Berkeley Lab for Experimental and Usable Security at UC Berkeley and ICSE. My co-author Alisa Frick is here today as well, and she will join us for the discussion part later. Let's start with the motivation behind this work. So many of the online privacy and security issues can be addressed during software development. This makes the role of software developers crucial in considering such issues in software design and implementing privacy and security protections. However, they rarely do it and find it challenging. Based on the 2018 survey of Speakerman, only 36% of developers reported incorporating privacy mechanisms into the software they build. So the logical question arises, why don't developers pay more attention to privacy and security considerations in software design? Well, there is a multitude of theoretical and empirical studies that discuss various factors related to adoption of security and privacy practices in software development teams. This research is quite fragmented. Different studies cover different stages of development process. Some focus only on privacy, others focus only on security, despite substantial overlaps between the challenges in addressing both categories of issues. Finally, some studies address developers, others focus on management in software companies. Moreover, although some reasons and barriers are well studied and repeatedly shown to have an impact, other findings are contradictory and yield mixed results. Prior attempts at systematizing the knowledge about the factors influencing the success of software development projects did not focus on security and privacy specifically. However, without a clear understanding of the barriers and challenges, the efforts focused on addressing privacy and security concerns to software design remain non-systematic and inefficient. Thus, our goal here is to map the factors that affect the consideration of privacy and security in software development and provide a foundation for future intervention that would target organizational and individual behavior change in order to increase the adoption of security and privacy practices in software development. Regarding the methodology, we carried out narrative review of literature. Compared to systematic literature reviews, narrative reviews offer more flexibility to deal with evolving knowledge and concepts, and which is relevant to the area of this work. I will provide just a brief overview here, so please refer to the appendix of our paper for more details. So during the initial search, we mapped prior literature using our expertise and knowledge in the field and on the subject, and identified the studies relevant to our research objective, 99 papers. Then two researchers reviewed the empirical evidence and theoretical predictions and independently extracted the factors that hinder or promote the implementation of privacy and security considerations and practices in software development. Then using affinity diagrams, we independently categorized them into groups, discussed and merged. After resolving the disagreements, we had our initial model of factors here. At the next stage, to overcome the potential limitations of narrative review and improve the transparency, we also ran a systematic Scopus search to identify additional relevant studies. This analysis did not reveal, though, additional factors that were not yet covered in our model, but it provided the supporting evidence for the already identified factors and indicated that saturation was reached. So the resulting set of papers included 69 publications. And based on the analysis of this set of papers, we could categorize the identified factors into 5 big main groups: environmental, organizational, product-related, development process-related, and individual. I will just briefly describe each of these categories, and please refer to the table 2 in the appendix for more details. So first, environmental factors, they describe the context that surrounds the company and affects the adoption of security and privacy practices in the development process. These factors include regulatory frameworks and industry standards relevant to the company, social norms and user expectations, market competition and reputation in place. Second category is organizational factors, and these are aspects pertinent to a particular organization and its practices. For instance, its maturity, availability of financial and human resources that can be dedicated to addressing privacy and security issues, corporate privacy and security culture, support from the management and organizational incentives, the knowledge within the organization on security and privacy, and the organizational and team structure. The next category is process-related factors, and these are the ones that can have an impact either throughout the development process or at a specific stage of the software development lifecycle. For instance, availability and usefulness of internal organizational documentation, tension between technical requirements or tight deadlines, and privacy and security requirements, availability of privacy and security tools during the development process, and availability and use of the evaluation matrices. The next level is product-related factors, and those are pertinent to the type of software product, its target audience, and economic potential of the product. And the last but not least, and the category of factors related to personal factors. These include developers' personal characteristics and their backgrounds. So apart from systematizing the knowledge and as an additional contribution, we also propose to map the potential strategies for leveraging the factors described in our model using the capability, opportunity, motivation behavior model from the widely recognized behavioral change theory. So the COM-B model describes a framework in which capability, opportunity, and motivation are three essential conditions for generating behavioral change. Next, I'll describe each of these components in relation to the factors we identified. To increase companies' motivation to take security and privacy seriously and increase the cost of violations and the priority of security and privacy practices, we encourage policymakers to create clearer regulations that are easy to implement and informs penalties for violations, as well as create the mechanisms for oversight. Privacy can be a competitive advantage, and to achieve that, the positive business impact should be emphasized, and the empirical evidence of it should be created and disseminated. To show the relevance and the importance of privacy and security practices, companies can engage in relevant user research and implement vulnerability discovery and risk assessment tools during the software development process. Finally, to increase the responsibility over privacy and security on various levels, privacy and security could be mentioned in job descriptions, included in code reviews, and more management support should be dedicated to them. Based on COM-B capabilities, a physical and psychological capacity to perform the behavior. So to leverage developers' capability, then there could be more effort to inform them about privacy and security, for instance, through education and training, providing them with checklists and ensuring the validation of third-party resources they use, for instance, libraries. To make it easy to do privacy and security, which is not easy, the guidelines could be made easier to understand. Quantified metrics for regulatory compliance could be introduced, and the usability of security and privacy tools could be improved to make them easier to apply, to use. To support the practical implementation of security and privacy, and the requirements engineering tools could be improved and more widely adopted. Automated privacy vulnerability discovery tools could be also used. For instance, other resources like code samples, libraries, and resources for security and privacy could also be used in the development process. Finally, authority and autonomy and control of developers in implementing security and privacy could be emphasized and supported. Finally, it's important to create the opportunity to implement security and privacy in software development. So to make room for privacy and security, it could be included in strategic planning. And the advocacy within software development teams could be encouraged for privacy and security. There could be dedicated substantial, sufficient financial and human resources to that. And apart from these resources, also time for privacy and security could be budgeted in the overall process. Finally, privacy and security should be waived in the interorganizational canvas by incorporating security and privacy experts in the teams, facilitating communication between different stakeholders, for instance, engineers, legal departments, UX researchers, and others, and incorporating privacy by design principles. So the goal of this study was to systematize existing knowledge about the factors that affect the implementation of privacy and security considerations and practices in software development. Future work is needed to empirically validate the model and quantify the relative impact of the factors and relationships among them. For example, using surveys or interviews. The model can be also used in future work for developing a practical tool for the assessment of barriers in implementing privacy and security considerations in software development organizations. The behavioral change recommendations could also be checked. Since this work is in progress, I would appreciate your feedback about various topics, for instance, the feasibility and challenges that you see in implementing our recommendations in the real world, suggestions for other potential model applications, and others. This is just the list to start the discussion. Thank you so much for your attention, and I will be happy to talk about this work.